Welcome back to the Inner Golden Hour podcast with me, your host Kasum. And today is not a solo episode, but I have a special guest on this podcast, someone who I have shared so many of my early mornings with. No, it's not my husband. I have spent many early mornings with her back in 2020 and 2021, back in the clubhouse era when the whole world felt upside down. But our little corner, the 5 a.m. mornings room, became a sanctuary for connection, curiosity, and deep reflection. Yeah, and 5 a.m. Who would have thought, right? She is Brianna Greenspan, a resilience strategist, wellness educator, and chronic illness advocate whose grounded, compassionate presence has been inspiring people long before her new book, The Book of Questions Living with Chronic Illness, ever hit the shelves. So, if you were there back then during those very early clubhouse mornings, you will remember her, the calm voice holding space for hundreds of people before sunrise, helping them ask a better question and find meaning through all of the chaos. And that room, which was inspired by Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, sparked countless breakthroughs, and Brianna's energy was truly the heartbeat of it all. And today she is back, this time as a co author alongside Dr. Gregory Stock, the original creator of the Book of Questions series, which has sold over 5 million copies worldwide. And together they've created a powerful new edition for those navigating chronic illness, bridging science, soul, and the art of intentional questioning. While this book might be about navigating chronic illness, so much of what Brianna speaks to is about the art of questioning. So today we are going to be diving into how one question can change everything and what resilience really looks like when life throws curveballs, and why curiosity might just be the medicine we've all been missing. And I'm super stoked to jump in on this conversation with Brianna as we go back in time, as we reminisce some of our morning conversations while also connecting with each other on what is currently happening, while also getting to hear more about her book and her life and her path and how that's inspiring as well as impacting people across the globe. So let's jump in. Welcome to the Inner Golden Hour podcast, where dreams take flight, mind, body, and soul get a serious holistic upgrade, and personal evolution transforms into a shared spiritual adventure. Consider this your dedicated sanctuary for exploration, self discovery, unfiltered truths, diverse perspectives, and some much needed heart to heart real talk. Hi, I'm your host Kusum. I'm a mindset and manifestation life and business coach. Think of me as that best friend you never knew you needed. The one unafraid to call out your BS, deliver a dose of tough love, and hit you with some truth bombs. This podcast is more than just a series of episodes. It's a transformative experience guiding you to dig into your truths, ditch those old beliefs, and fully embrace the real authentic you. It's an invitation to align your mind, body, heart, and soul, to dream big, to explore what truly lights you up, and to manifest a reality that surpasses your wildest imagination. Envision this space as the magical golden hour when everything radiates with a breathtaking glow, revealing the depths of your inner world. Now, come along and immerse yourself in a perpetual flow of inspiration, insights, and massive transformation across all areas of your life. Let's explore the extraordinary, one enlightening episode at a time. Hi, Bree.
Hi, beautiful friend. I'm so happy to see your smiling face.
You look as radiant as ever.
You're so gorgeous. Gorgeous.
So, new book is coming out. Super excited for that.
Thanks. I was like, I feel like you're like my long lost internet best friend. I'm so happy to see you. I'm like, oh my gosh, that lady from COVID.
I
We'll be like that thing from Clubhouse.
But interesting. I never knew that you meant to only do this for 3 days and then you went on to do it for 700 days. That takes a lot of commitment, consistency. And I know you were also going through your own health journey along the way. Not like you had all the time and everything had lined up for you exactly the way it needed to be for you to show up day after day after day. But you showed up despite whatever it is that you were going through yourself, which goes to show how much you want to be there and serve people and just do your thing the best way possible. So that's what I've always admired about you, Brie, because I didn't know your story for a long time until one day I think somebody brought it up or you shared as a follow-up to somebody's question, and I was shocked. I was like, if you never shared that story on that clubhouse room that day, I would have never guessed in a million years that this is what you are going through on a day-to-day basis. But to be able to show up and just be your radiant amazing self was just incredible. It was so inspiring for all of the others to just show up and do our best as well.
You know, that's so sweet of you to say, and I'm so grateful for you because the thing that I've learned surrounding being born with a complex chronic illness and suffering at such a great level for so many years is that, you know, there's this phrase, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And what I've really learned is that we have no idea the ways in which people are resiliently doing the best that they can at each moment. And so I have found it within myself, because of the ways that I have so many hardships each day, to meet people with compassion or grace or love or empathy, or, you know, just the awareness of the humanization of moments, because we are all going through something or many somethings behind the scenes in the forefront that most people don't have the courage or language to share. So they're going through something in isolation. And it wasn't innate in me to ever talk about what I go through. And it was only these last few years that I've ever even had the courage to share the behind the scenes, the behind the curtain, if you will, because it's something that I would have never, my childhood self couldn't have ever imagined I would ever talk to anyone in a public setting, let alone many people, ever, let alone tell vulnerable aspects of the hardships that I go through in a public way. Like, all of those things were unfathomable, and put together just sounds like a movie. Yet here we are.
What I'm curious about, Brie, right now is when you look back at who you were back in 2020 and 2021 versus now, what's been one belief that you feel like you've completely outgrown? Because I can honestly say to myself that between then and now, I have outgrown so many of my beliefs that I so strongly held on to back then, but now I'm like a completely different person. So I'm curious, what would that be for you?
Wow. What a real and deep question. How beautiful. You know, in so many ways, I agree. I'm so evolved from the space that I was in a few years ago. And one belief system that I had before, I attempt to do all the good I can in all the ways I can at all the times I can for all the beings I can as often as I can. And I really stand behind that. Like, in a lot of the things that I do, most people can see that. And I really believe that showing up as a steward of goodness is good for me personally, and it's good for those around me. And so it's something I believe in. And it was also something that I naively thought the rest of the world also really, really believed in. And one of the things that I learned from Clubhouse, and that I learned from the pandemic, and that I've learned through the years, and this is kind of a sad one, but ultimately, people are just doing the best that they can. There's no playbook for how to show up. People don't have the same integrity or values or belief systems that you personally do at all times. And so there are ways in which how you might show up might be different than how other people might show up. And so I have learned a lot of things about myself in terms of how, in a hard moment, I want to rise or show up. And the belief systems that I had surrounding that I hope other people do also, or that I want to hold other people to something, I've kind of gone out the window in the name of everybody is just doing the best that they can in each moment. And ultimately, I learned that I can't think about or care about or hope for anything other than how I show up. And one thing that I've kind of joked with a lot of my colleagues about this year, who always say, like, I want a gold medal in the Mindfulness Olympics. Like that call, that thing, how I show up is something that's really evolved in ultimately.
Yeah, which is so interesting, Brie, because we all hold people to certain standards, right? And then we have to really check in with us. And what you shared right now is so beautiful in being that deep, compassionate person that you are, that has to translate to your everyday living. And especially when people like you and I, we are always showing up online one way or another. So I'm curious, what have you experienced in all of the years, in all of the ways that you've been showing up? What do you think there's something that people don't really realize about what it actually takes for people like you to keep showing up online authentically?
When we say online authentically, it starts with showing up internally authentically. It starts with showing up in our own spaces authentically. And the thing that I'm constantly asking is like, can I be myself in this space? And can I live in my own integrity in this space? Or am I being asked to shift who I am or how I show up? And the online space is very interesting. And for me,
It is brutal. That's why
crazy. And the online space for me is personally a little bit jarring because I've never been an online person. I've always been in awe of people that can be a support to people on the internet. And this Clubhouse situation was really the first time I'd ever been a large steward of support for strangers online. And I have ultimately learned so much about myself. And the number one thing is I just want to be my most authentic self, and I'm okay with people receiving or not receiving that, as long as I am proud of how I show up. And so I'm very different than most people around me, and I know that, and I'm okay with that. Like I make choices. For instance, we don't own a television, and I haven't owned a television for over a decade. For instance, I don't wear any makeup whatsoever. I don't own any makeup. Like I couldn't even, if I, it's not like I could have if I tried. It would be an effort in order to put makeup on at this moment. Yeah. And it's a personal thing because I have learned various things about myself, and they all ultimately come back to the belief system that like when I authentically am proud of myself, or love myself, or see myself, the ways in which the conversations in my mind evolve are different than when I don't.
That's so beautiful, Brie, because what you shared just now is you've got to start showing up authentically internally first. And I think that is like the hardest battle today for people because they can't be authentic with themselves. Yes, when you start showing up authentically online, you are going to be subjected, scrutinized, subjected to all kinds of criticism and whatnot. That's one aspect of it. But when you start showing up authentically internally, who is the one that's criticizing you? Who is the one that's actually throwing shade at you? It is that inner critic. And that's what stops people from being truly authentic with themselves, let alone the world. So what you just shared, I'm sure has been a journey for you in terms of self-love, self-acceptance, and getting to the point where you say that I know myself now so well that what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And this is the way that I show up. I choose to show up, which is beautiful. But how did this journey for you even begin?
Oh my gosh. It's such an interesting thing because I was born with a complex chronic illness. And so as a result, my whole childhood was riddled with challenges, symptoms, medications, assistive devices, labels, and a lot of complications, if you will. And ultimately, I lost the ability to walk after a failed L5-S1 fusion surgery in the middle of my freshman and sophomore year of college.
Mm.
That's really where my story begins, because it was in going to the neurosurgeon for my follow-up appointment where I was sitting in a cycle of despair,
Mm-hmm.
literally just confident that nothing could ever help me because nothing had ever helped before.
Mm-hmm.
I had told my parents that if the neurosurgeon didn't have any really good answers at the follow-up appointment, did I even want to live anymore?
Mm.
And as I reflect back now, I know that that was an ultimately very limiting question. And then I went to bed. The next morning, I wake up and I get a phone call from my roommate in college. And they let me know that our best friend has just OD'd and died. And I'm thinking to myself, I saw this person the day before. Like, what are you talking about? It's not like they're a drug addict. Like, what are you, like, what is even happening? And now, not only am I physically diminished, in an emotional state of despair, but now I'm distraught on top of that because of the loss of my friend. So I go to the neurosurgeon and he immediately says he doesn't have any good answers. He says, your surgery failed. We don't know how that happened. We don't have any good answers. We can up your handicap placard from a temporary one to a permanent one. We can up your steroid shots, and we can prescribe you this stronger pain medication. And he prescribes me the same medication that my friend had just died from.
Wow.
And this was the moment. This was the actual moment where I asked a different question. I said, is there anything else out there that can help me with the way that I'm suffering? And if so, where can I find it? And this one question was the catalyst for my neuroscience of well-being journey, for me researching what was out there that could actually be a steward of support for me in those hard moments.
Yeah. And you truly are proof that the quality of your life is truly a reflection of the quality of questions that you ask, right? Which is truly the essence of it. It all goes back to, we all are handed different cards. Like, how do I best play with the cards that I have been dealt with? Which is what I think you've been doing all your life. So until you came to this point of asking this wonderful question that completely changed the trajectory of your life, and having lived with chronic illness for that long, up until that point, what would you say if there were like questions or one question that you used to avoid asking up until then?
Honestly, every question that I asked myself and every question that I avoided were so complex and came from such a space of shame and anger and disappointment and sadness and self-loathing and, you know, unworthiness. My whole childhood, I was in that victim mindset. I couldn't imagine why someone would suffer at this level. And each thing that didn't work reinforced that there was nothing out there that could help me with the way. And so I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a good question or an intentional question, or, you know, I didn't know so much. And I was constantly seeking validation or approval or wisdom externally because I didn't know that there was validation and wisdom that could come from within.
So when would you say you actually realize that asking questions instead of finding answers could actually be this practice of healing that you've since then embarked upon?
So right after that neurosurgeon appointment, my parents pulled me out of college, and I started a therapy program with someone that a friend of the family had come to my parents and said, you need to get this guy to work with your daughter or she is not going to make it. And she was very clear, and she had a lot of confidence in this specific therapist. And the first time I met him, he said, I'd like to talk to you alone before we even explore what might be possible. And he said, do you think that I can help you? And I immediately said, no, absolutely not. Like, no, absolutely not. And he said, do you think that there's anything out there that can help you? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, nothing can help me.
Yeah.
And he said, have you ever considered that you've already decided that anything that you may try is already not going to work because you're so powerful at manifesting? You're so confident in your answer that you are now telling me, even though we haven't even talked about a treatment plan, that this treatment plan and any other treatment plan are already going to fail.
Yeah.
And this conversation was so eye-opening, confronting, jarring, and beautiful, because it was the first time that I ever thought to myself, are the conversations in my mind
dictating my reality?
yes, dictating my reality, and also distorting possibilities. Is there more that I don't see because of my limited viewpoint? Like, if I were to go the 30,000 foot view, could I see more about the landscape? And that was really the moment that curiosity was birthed.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that you got to finally meet this person, because what people don't realize that is we are such powerful beings of creating the reality that we want, whether good, bad, ugly. We get to decide, we get to choose. So up until that point, you had written off your future based off of your past and present experiences, and you said nothing else can ever work. So yes, the universe said, sure, you are so powerful, I am granting you that wish. Nothing is going to work for you until you are the one who actually decides something's going to work, and I'm going to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Is there anything else out there that can help me with the way that I'm suffering? And if so, where can I find it? It was the catalyst of curiosity. It was the first time that, I asked a question that was expansive, that had room for unlimited answers.
Yeah.
And, now I have beautiful questions. Like the question I ask myself every morning, the moment I wake up, is, despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself starting now? And if my feet hurt and I'm unable to stand, I'm going to put some pain cream on, and then I'm going to get some infrared socks, and then I'm going to get these, orthotic slippers, and then I'm going to be able to stand. What are the things that I can do to best support myself is a curiosity that reorients me to listen to my intuition. It's the invitation to not only go within, but to take action, or what I call micro massive action, on what comes up. If I ask myself this question and it says, the answer is, have some water, take a deep breath, turn the light on, take a shower, get some pain cream, whatever the answer is, I then practice attempting to do the thing, or I practice asking for help to do the thing. Because if I'm not strong enough, and now I've identified a need, I start thinking about, how do I meet that need? What are the preconditions? That do I need to ask my partner to go get me some water if I don't have as much as I need? Like, what is the thing? And every day that question comes up dozens of times a day. And every time a symptom comes up, I ask myself, despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself starting now?
That is just so beautiful, Brie. And while we are on the topic of dealing with chronic illness, while I know it comes with its own set of challenges and all of the other repercussions, what you're sharing is not exclusive to people suffering with any kind of illness. It is, the way I'm seeing, as you're explaining, is this art of intentional questioning, this art of reflective questioning goes back to how we need to show up, every single one of us, in our day to day, because all of us could be asking better questions to better support ourselves. Like, how do I want to show up in my relationship? What do I need from my partner? What do my kids need? Etc., etc., etc. So it doesn't necessarily stop at, if you're suffering with pain or if you're going through this, only then you ask these questions. But what you're outlining is basically the questions that we all need to be asking all day, every day, to show up as better humans for ourselves and for the rest of the world.
Yes, exactly. Because ultimately, when I was a child, I was often told the things that were out of my control, the things I couldn't change, the things that were there. But no one was really telling me, these are the things that are in your control. Here are the things that you do have ownership over. And no one ever checked my mind. No one ever said to me, Are the conversations happening in your mind making you feel good or making you feel less than? Nobody ever said, notice the narrative internally and notice how it dictates the actions you take.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about that is that I have been a steward of support for myself every single day since I learned that that was an option. For instance, the second question in my new book, The Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, I have 4 daily questions in the intro. The second question is, what are the tools and resources that best support me in my time of need? And where can I place them so I have them when I need them? Like, for instance, if you're someone who faints when you're in the shower, why would your electrolytes be in the pantry instead of the bathroom? If you're someone who needs this, why is it over there instead of over here? And so there are certain things that I have, I call it my brie bag, and there are certain things I have on my desk, on my nightstand, in the living room, on my purse, in the car, at 3 friends' houses. And it's literally just so that I can answer that question. When a symptom comes up, do I have what I need that I've already identified as helpful? And if so, awesome. If not,
Absolutely. Same goes for all of us too. If your goal is to be drinking more water every day and you're not filling up your mug every day to make sure that you're supporting that goal of yours, then what are you even doing? I coach the most successful clients, and one of their goals is literally, I need to be drinking more water in a day.
Okay, and how are you setting yourself up for success? So I literally set myself up for success in these very simple ways that allow me to say, oh, is that going to be something that crosses my mind? How difficult is it for me to accomplish that? How do I put something in, like a cup or a water dispenser or something else inserted so that I can set myself up for success?
Yeah. And this is also about making those micro decisions beforehand, not deciding when you need it. You know your lifestyle, you know what works for you, you know what supports you. So how can I be proactive about my own life and take care of me instead of waiting for something to fall apart? And only then am I going to wake up to the reality that, oh, this is not serving me. I need to support myself in a better way.
Exactly. And ultimately, the questions that we ask ourselves can, if we allow them, create psychological safety from within. What I've learned is that so many people build a wall where they could build a bridge because they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe in their own skin. They're not safe in their thoughts, and they don't feel like anyone else sees or hears them. And so one of the greatest gifts that I've been able to discover is how self-reflective questions can be a vehicle to not only create psychological safety from within, but also to release some of that held trauma so many of us carry these weights from these experiences that shape how we show up in the next time that experience presents itself. And that weight is heavy. That weight is often present for many people and doesn't have to be. And so the reason we wrote the 4 daily questions to orient people to be a steward of support for themselves. Yet the 111 questions in this collection of questions are really meant to invite people to release some of their held trauma. And that's something that when I was a kid, I didn't know that I had so much trauma or that I held it in different ways. And as an adult, I didn't know it was something that I could get rid of. I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Yeah. So everything you're describing right now, Bree, is truly the role of what neuroscience plays in our day-to-day life, right? So tell me from your perspective, especially because you are so consciously implementing this every minute of the day, not even just daily practice, it's like literally every minute of the day. What actually shifts in our brains when we start showing up the way that you have been showing up in your life?
So much, literally everything. First and foremost, you need to say or read something 10,000 times in order to create a new neural pathway. And so when we start to think about the conversations happening in our mind, when we start to listen to the conversations happening in our mind, you can easily check yourself to see how many times you're celebrating your wins or you're putting yourself down. You can see very clearly what patterns are happening and are they supportive. And so for me, I wanted to get in as many reps as possible. So I started not only changing the background of my phone or putting a post-it note on my wall or putting something on my mirror or in my car, but I started having language that would orient me to support myself. And I created new neural pathways that were encouraging, that were supportive, that believed in me, that knew that I was doing the best that I could, that was meeting myself where I was at. And over time, because it's not like something that like, it's like eating a salad. Eating a salad once or going to the gym once, it's cool. But like going to the gym 100 times, let me tell you, you're going to see a very big difference. Eating 100 salads, you're going to see a very big difference. So saying something 100 times, very different than saying it one time. Like we need the reps. And so from a neuroscience perspective, once I started learning that reps didn't just apply to the thoughts in our mind and creating neural pathways, but they also applied physiologically. So I have things like this is my office. It says right here, there is overwhelming evidence that things are going to work out. And this is where I turn when things get crazy. It's like things are crazy on my screen. I see that. I immediately take a deep breath. And so the pattern that I have for myself, things are chaotic. I turn, I see this sign. I reorient.
Yeah. So you're basically interrupting the pattern, the default pattern, and replacing that with something that's more empowering to you so you can keep going forward with that more empowering thought and belief. And as a result, I'm sure the actions immediately change. Instead of perhaps, for the people that I work with, whenever they're highly stressed or overwhelmed, the first thing they do is go grab a snack that doesn't serve them. And that's their default pattern. But if they use a tool like what you're using right now, they're going to say, okay, let me go take a 5-minute walk instead of grabbing that snack, which is not going to serve me. And I'm going to be guilty. I'm going to hate myself for doing that 10 minutes later.
And ultimately, it goes back to the first question in the book. Despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself starting now?
So tell me about the 4 questions that you talk about.
This question is so interesting because once I started asking the opposite, despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to worst support myself? What can I do to take things, make them worse? Eating that unhealthy snack, saying mean things to myself. There was a whole list that came up when I was like, how can I make my uncomfortable moment even worse? And that's where, flipping the questions, like, what can I do to best support myself? I'm like, oh, get some water, go see the sun, go walk the hall, fill in the blank. Yeah. And you start to realize that like, oh, the patterns that I have, those aren't serving me. Can I create new patterns? How do I pattern interrupt? That's a whole game. And the 4 daily questions. Thanks so much for asking.
I love that. You just mentioned also have the what not to do list because again.
No. Like if you're someone who's like, I don't want to drink as much soda. What did you put on your desk this morning? Did you put water on your desk? Is there tea? Is there kombucha? Is there coffee? If you're like, no soda. So like, what would you like instead? It's not just like, no. What might you like to see? And that has really oriented me. So these first questions, they're the end to the introduction. And this what I just shared. The second one, what are the tools and resources that best support me in my time of need? And where can I put them so that they're accessible when I need them? The third one is, in the challenges I'm experiencing right now, what is one thing that I can celebrate about my own resilience? And the fourth one is, how could I support someone else today? And these are questions that I ask myself every day so that it's about me and about others. It's about setting my current self and my future self up for success. It's about celebrating versus harping on. And then there's the whole collection of questions, and I'll read you 2 of them that are probably my favorites and will kind of give you a very clear understanding of what's going on. So the first question is, when have you shown great courage and grit in overcoming something most people take for granted? Did you celebrate your triumph as much as it deserved.
Ah, I love that. So I'm going to ask you that very first question, additional question that you shared. That question is back to you. You tell us.
So I've been having this neuropathy situation for the last 7-8 weeks, to the point that it's hard to stand. And there's been a lot of times that I'm unable to stand. So I haven't been able to wear shoes in about 7 weeks. So I now, like picture this, I have this amazing neuropathy pain cream and this infrared technology sock and this orthotic slipper, and like that's my go-to. So now I'm, instead of in a wheelchair, I have these things and I'm out in the world. And I'm so proud. And I remember the first time I couldn't stand and then I could, telling a colleague, I'm so proud of myself right now. Like the fact that I'm able to walk out this door. And yesterday, in the positive triumph of triumphs, yesterday I wore tennis shoes for the first time, and I was carrying a box, and we were like on a mission. We were like carrying a box of books to the car, and I put my tennis shoes on, and as we were walking to the car, I stopped. I took like 10 steps, and I stopped, and I turned to my colleague Ari, and I said, this is the first time I've worn tennis shoes in 7 weeks. And we celebrated for like 5 seconds. And then got back and went on our journey, and that was that. But when we asked this question, when have you shown great courage and grit in overcoming something that most people take for granted? It has been a journey to take steps these last few weeks and months.
What you just shared is such a great reminder, because how many times do we take for granted, myself included, the fact that I can put on my shoes and walk out the door whenever I want to, not having to give it second thoughts. But then we start making reasons. Oh, maybe the weather is too hot, or maybe that, maybe this, right? Or I don't have enough time right now. I need to do all of these. How many reasons do we give ourselves because we've taken something for granted? But people like you go, it is a whole journey for you. And it's really humbling to hear your story, and such a great reminder. So thank you for sharing that, because I hope whoever's listening, it encourages them to not take the things that we take for granted, and to really show up for ourselves and our bodies and honor what we've been given.
And so, I love what you're saying for so many reasons, especially because not just taking things for granted, but celebrating things. What I've noticed, and like my childhood self and all my selves past that included, is that oftentimes when things don't go according to plan, there's a lot of time to reflect on it. And oftentimes when things do go according to plan, we just move right along. It's like on
2 seconds and you're on to the next thing.
So this question, did you celebrate your triumph as much as it deserved? Like, I don't know if I celebrated my triumph as much as I deserved in the moment. Actually, when you asked me, I was like, maybe I could have celebrated that for an extra 30 seconds. Next time we're going to have a 1-minute celebration, not a 30-second one. But either way, I did take a moment, and I was proud of that. And I'm taking a second moment now and reflecting. Like, I'm actually still in orthotic slippers in my house right now. But I say that vulnerably because we all have things. One day you can eat, and the next day your tummy hurts. One day you can see, and the next day your eyes hurt. Yeah. And for me, I have learned that the questions that we ask ourselves in our mind have an opportunity to reshape our narrative and our outcomes. So the second question I wanted to share with you is, what stories do you tell yourself about your illness? And what purposes do they serve you? Are there other stories that might better serve you? And that's a perfect example of how there's no right or wrong answers. These are not questions that are meant to be like you and everybody else. They're meant to be you and you and your mind, you and your journal, you and your mind, you and your journal, until you're able to release what's held so close, so tightly. And I have a formula in the book. I always say, if you want to be vulnerable with someone, I really recommend that you find someone who's illness adjacent. You have MS, they have fibromyalgia. Because oftentimes, if you embark on your vulnerability journey with a loved one, your parent, your child, your spouse, your sibling, most of the time, people do not have the emotional capacity to meet someone in their vulnerable moment where they need. And you mentioned neuroplasticity before. What happens when you're not seen and heard by someone who loves you is you create a neural pathway that says, if the person who loves me the most doesn't see and hear me, no one else will.
Yeah.
And so I recommend that people start with someone who's illness adjacent, because there's no comparison-itis. Do you have it as, are your symptoms as strong as mine? And there's almost a guarantee that someone will see and hear you. And as a result, then you create a neural pathway that says, if this random stranger with a different illness can see and hear me, others can too.
Yeah.
So you have to set yourself up in your moments of vulnerability for success if you want to create neural pathways that will catapult you forward in your journey. Stacking wins is important. Reflecting on wins is important.
Yeah. What you just shared, Bri, is one of the single most important advice that people need, whether it's illnesses that they're dealing with or anything else in life. Put yourself out there, make space to show up in your authenticity and vulnerability so people can truly see you and hear you, and they can reflect that back to you. And you invite more of the same into your life, because it's changing your fundamental belief system that people don't get me.
Absolutely. And
Right.
one thing that's so interesting is that, over COVID, I really learned this. The majority of the planet thinks everything is wrong about them. The majority of the planet has a depreciative operating system where they're looking for what's wrong or what's broken internally or externally at all times. And if that's how you go through life, you often don't have a very positive self-image. You often don't have a very positive life view. And ultimately, you're the only one who's in your mind who knows what's happening. And so when I learned all of these things, I was like, I don't want to be someone who's constantly looking down on myself and constantly thinking that everything's going to not work and that I'll always live in this terrible narrative my whole life. Like, if I get to write my story, is that really the story I want to write?
Yeah. I love that you collaborated with Dr. Gregory Stock on this book. I'm curious what brought about this collaboration, and more importantly, how do you want this book to change conversations, not just in healthcare, but also inside classrooms and even in our homes too?
Oh, what a beautiful question. So Dr. Gregory Stock is the original author of the Book of Questions. So his book in 1983 took the world by storm. It was the first book to bring questions to the forefront as a vehicle for finding meaning and purpose in our relationships. And it was on Oprah's bestseller list. It was sold literally everywhere books are sold before Amazon. He sold millions and millions of copies before modern day digital bookstores. And many years ago, we met and he said, hey, I want to write this book with you. I've never seen anyone that asks questions in a way that's been able to shape their life view in an evolved fashion. And I was so grateful for this opportunity because ultimately he and I spent years just talking about different traumas and different emotional states and different stories and different experiences that people with a chronic illness experience. And we created this collection of questions from years and years and years of back and forth learning. And on that journey, I, year after year, was able to notice how much trauma that I held that I'd released. And each year, now we've been working on this for like many years. It has been a long journey. We've been working on it the entire pandemic and then some. And so,
Wow.
yes, many, many years. This is a book that I was already working on many years before I met you. And now
I did not know that.
In the context, I've done so many other things.
I know.
From start to finish.
Yeah.
But this one, it took so many years to simmer. You know, when they're like an aged wine, but this book took so many years because we really wanted to invite people who are in a deep cycle of hopelessness and despair to meet themselves where they're at in their own dark moment. So this is not like you and others. This is really just you and you.
Mm.
And it's an opportunity to feel something you might have never felt before, which is
What you're saying is basically strengthening the bond, the relationship that you have with yourself. And this book is a starting point for people to begin that journey.
yes,
That
exactly.
is so beautiful.
Yeah. You know, for so long, I thought it was about the external, the other. What can I learn from that doctor, from that researcher, from that therapist? And eventually, I learned that if I was already setting up that doctor and therapist and medication and modality for failure based on the conversation in my mind, how was that helping me or anyone else? But that's something only you know. Like we are in our mind and no one else is.
Yeah. And when I hear you talk about different things that you have had to face, overcome in your life, the one thing that stands out for me when I think of Brie is resilience. That is the one thing that stands out. And I know that you've also, over the years, mentored thousands of kids and adults through the BGI International as well. And I think a lot of people have lost hope when they are on this journey. They've lost hope. So, how do you actually teach resilience to those who have actually lost hope?
It's a big conversation. But ultimately, if someone has lost hope, instilling that hope inside of them is a gift and privilege. And so for many people, like specifically living with a chronic illness, many people have never met somebody else with their same illness.
Yeah.
Many people have never had a conversation with someone else about what they go through. And so I have learned that there's no specific formula for instilling hope in someone who's lost it, but there's so many different moments that could support someone. And ultimately, the biggest one is confronting the conversations we have in our mind.
So basically, have more conversations with yourself and with others.
And supportive conversations, guided conversations, ones where the questions you're asking are literally the opposite of anything you've ever asked before. Because all of the questions that you've ever asked got you to the place you're currently in. And if you're happy in the place that you're in, amazing. I love it. And if you'd like to be somewhere else, it might be that you need to ask evolved questions to help steward you to that place.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions. This has been amazing, and I want to keep going.
You mean like you want to have like 2.5 hours of Clubhouse again at 5 a.m.?
I know. Okay, so I know you've been through your own life journey as this book has been evolving and shaping up and seeing the day of the light. So one word that actually describes who you were before the book and one that describes you right now.
Before the book, I was curious, and currently I'm courageous.
I love that. And what is the biggest misconception about chronic illness that you wish more people understood?
What deep and profound questions for rapid fire, ma'am. You know, one thing that I wish people really understood is that it's a journey. That no one is in the same place forever. And no two people with the same situation are having the same story. That everyone is going through their own unique journey. And ultimately, I hope people can understand that compassion and empathy, kindness for everyone that you meet is fighting a hard battle is an operating system that we should all, you know, embed in our foundational awareness. That's what I hope. That's what I wish people knew.
I love that. And how are you hoping the 111 questions to start changing the conversations?
I really hope that this collection of questions invites people to feel lighter. It invites people to feel lighter in their own body. Invites people to feel more connected to others. Invites vulnerability and psychological safety to be paired and normalized. Where most people are ashamed or fearful or uncomfortable, that there's so many other things that you could feel When you're in this conversation where, wow, you have that thing too? I'm not alone. There's hope. There's things out there. You've moved through that thing.
I love that. Okay. So, what is currently bringing you joy right now in the most simplest, most human way?
Your shirt. Your shirt is bringing me so much joy. I want to say it the whole time. I was like, I'm smiling at all your flowers. I was waving at them. I was like, hi, flowers. It's so pretty.
It is a dress, Bree. It is a dress.
Your outfit. Your cute outfit is bringing me joy right now, friend. Colors.
Oh my gosh. So what is next for you? I know that you are somebody who's always up to 10 different things at any given time. So what's next for you? Is there another project or conversation that you feel called to start right now?
Oh, I love it. I would say that this is next for me. Like in a lot of ways, the Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, is the new season because I didn't know for so many years how many commonalities were there amongst all people that suffer physically and mentally. And I also didn't know the expanse. But post-COVID, there are more people that are suffering physically and mentally in the world today than ever before. And that is an awareness that as I've been able to find supports or find solutions or navigate symptoms or, ultimately get stronger or lessen the intensity or the length of certain symptoms, I'm hearing that that's not the case with everyone all the time. And so it's something that in the work that I do in medical genetics, I'm constantly hearing from a doctor or a patient every single day that someone is hurting at a debilitating level. And so the awareness to just start a conversation where someone starts to explore, oh my gosh, I said to myself, despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself starting now? And the way that I met that symptom was radically different than how I experienced that symptom last week. That's my hope. And that's what's on the horizon. Support groups and chronic illness communities and all advocates and activists and those that are thought leaders in the space are inviting people to know that there is something that we're in control of, and it's the conversation in our mind.
Yeah. How beautiful, Brie. And what I'm taking away from this is one, first of all, I don't think everybody recognizes that they are actually dealing with chronic illness because that in and of itself is another challenge, right?
Whole other narrative.
Yeah. But more importantly, and since we are coming up on the holiday season, this is the book that people should be thinking about. I'm highly encouraging everybody to buy this for themselves and gift it to their loved ones. The Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness by Bree and Dr. Gregory Stone. And yeah, make sure that you are asking yourselves the most powerful questions. And Bree, you're always such an inspiration. Every time I hear you, every time your post pops up on my feed, it brings a smile on my face because it takes me right back to our clubhouse days, the 5 a.m. mornings. So it's always such a joy to connect with you and have these beautiful, wonderful, soul-filled conversations.
Likewise. Thank you so much for who you are and the bright light that you shine in the world. You're such an inspiration to me and a gift and privilege to all of those that you coach and who listen to your show and listen to your wisdom. You are, you're it. You are the authentic, in integrity, extraordinary online leader, like in a way that I'm so deeply inspired by you because you're always your authentic self and your authentic self is regularly shining offline and online. I don't meet a lot of people, I'm being real. I don't meet a lot of people who are who they are offline and also online. And so I really applaud that within you, that you've met your authentic self, celebrated your authentic self, and brought it with you to the other spaces that you are in.
Oh, thank you so much, Rhea. I fully received that, and let me tell you, it's been a journey. Okay, it's been a journey.
I'm honoring it because I don't know if you honored it as much as it deserved in that crazy journey.
It was a journey for sure. Me getting to my authentic self, and in so many ways, I'm still, meeting parts of me that are deep underneath, right? So it's a journey.
It's like the next era is coming forth.
Yeah, we're all a work in progress, and I celebrate every version of me. But thank you so much for being here on my podcast today and sharing your wisdom, your radiance, and your brilliance with me and the rest of the world.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me on another episode of this podcast. I appreciate your time, your presence, your commitment, and your willingness to embark on this journey of self discovery, transformation, and manifestation. If anything you heard today resonated with you, sparked new insights, or brought about aha moments, I'd love to hear all about them. So please share your thoughts by tagging me on social media at Passion Purpose Passport and follow me there for more inspiring content and connection. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and show your support by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. The more good we share with the world, the more the universe unfolds its magic for us. It's not just good karma, it's the universal law, aka Manifestation 101. On that note, align your mind, body, heart, and soul with your deepest desires for limitless possibilities. Remember, every step you take, every action you choose ripples through the universe, shaping the reality you wish to experience. Until next time, keep basking in the brilliance of your inner golden hour and keep manifesting miracles.